During the making of our film opening, we learnt about new technologies and over time developed our skills on them. The main new technologies we used were Final Cut Pro, GarageBand and LiveType. We used LiveType to create our idents. At first Sarah and I had never heard of the software. We learnt by experimenting with different things on it, such as different live fonts where the font had an effect on it, and changing the position of the words. We created our 3 idents using a mixture of footage and LiveType. We used GarageBand to create our soundtrack. Again, Sarah and I had never used GarageBand before and didn't know how to use it. We learnt the basics and then experimented with different instruments and sounds. We also researched into which instruments fitted the slasher genre most. This was usually strings or synth effects. We kept experimenting until we found what we wanted for our movie. I think our soundtrack really makes the movie, and without it, it wouldn't be as effective. On our feedback, many people said that the soundtrack was very effective. Final Cut Pro is what we edited our movie on. Sarah and I had never used it before, so we had to start learning from scratch. At first we learnt the basic editing skills, such as how to use the blade tool. Then we started looking at different effects by making the CCTV footage. This is an example of how we edited the film. First we added the effects such as bad TV and black and white. This made it black and white and fuzzy. We then experimented around until we got the timer section, which we made say a certain date and time to make it look more realistic. We also edited it so we could cut certain parts out, like the stabbing bit, which we felt seemed fake. We changed certain shots on Final Cut to make them more effective, like creating close-ups and Dutch angles. Some of our effects didn't make it into our Final Cut, such as experimenting with cross-fading, for example. The most useful tools to us were the different effects and colour changing tools, as these really helped create a sinister and slasher feel to our movie. The technology, all in all, helped us create very close to what we imagined and planned for. I think if we had used analogue film, it would have not had the same look or feel to the movie, especially with all the effects we used in editing. It would also have taken a lot longer. This shows how digitisation is making film a lot more accessible to everyone for cheaper. If anything, a better quality camera could have helped us in low-level lighting scenes, of which there are a lot of, but overall the equipment and technology used was very good and helped us create what we had envisioned. This has shown us that we could create a movie similar to LeDonkin, Scorsese and Colin, which were both made on micro budgets using similar technology to what we used. Overall, we had learnt how to utilise all these new technologies to our advantage, using GarageBand to create a soundtrack and experimenting with different sounds. We have learnt how to decide if it sounded good or not so good. We've learnt how to make a basic linear cut on Final Cut, and also how to add effects, editing and transitions to develop the movie even further into what we wanted it to be.